Happy Friday. Happy May Day, everybody. The unions make us strong. Welcome to the Borg Bunker. I guess it's Friday, May 1st. Getting the garden together finally, getting my ass into gear and trying to get stuff done. I'm going to have my 30-foot trailer that I had to buy from somebody down here and implanted by Monday. So things are going well. Obviously, I've got my garden going on. I'm going to go in with a hard-on attempt at a victory type garden. I'm going to go in with root vegetables and turnips, radishes, carrots, like the hard stuff. I'm not going to try potatoes and beans as much because I'm going to try to grow things I can barter with neighbors to, cover off for. Because I don't have the space for that sort of stuff, but there are some things I can do here. Anyways, at least I've got, as you can see behind me, I've got water here. That's Lake Ketchewanuka, just north of Lakefield, Ontario. Beautiful lake. Good fishing, too. Well, what are we doing right now? We're now in the spring. The war is at a pause, stable state of instability. Iran is still running the show. The Americans are proceeding further into insanity. I don't know what the summer's going to bring, except that all I can see is that given that the United States now has almost a $40 trillion debt, and they have a 31, maybe possibly 32, if we're going to be nice this summer, $1 trillion GDP. They don't have enough cash to match their needs, so they're going to be going further into deficit. A lot of people in the a lot of people in the United States are pinning hopes on tourism coming back. I don't know how to say this properly, and I'm struggling with it. The tourism is not coming back to the United States. They have slunk into a state of delusion that you cannot see on through their media. I do, and my father and I, we watch the PBS usually every night during the week, now that they've stopped their weekend podcast their weekend broadcast because they can't do it anymore because they don't have the money for it. But when you look at the way that the questions and the issues are framed, it's an exercise in complete dismissal of reality. They are trying to assume that the United States is still going along to get along and is still the empire and is still doing what needs to do. The statistics that we're seeing with their finances tells us that that is no longer the case. It is a dying creation, and they are going to have to make some massive and fundamental changes if they're going to do anything going forward. I don't think they any longer have the gravitas to do that. We see what's happening with Trump. We see what's happening with the stuff in this insane stuff that happened last week weekend with the correspondence ball, and all we see is increasing insanity and instability, which means that the United States is being looked at by basically the entire planet as a rogue state that is in progressive decay. We need to figure out how we, as in Canada especially, but the world, deal with this. And I have to say, this is not me saying, well, smug Canadian here. You guys get to, you guys are just screwing up and we get to do everything. No, that's not what I mean. The United States has been for a very long time the backstop of the world industry and the world trade and the world economy and society. we're seeing that fray. It's sort of like the old couch that you used to really, really like, but now you're starting to see that the threads are showing through and maybe a couple springs are popping through and maybe it's time to replace it. That's always a really bad place because for most countries, everybody likes stability. I want stability. I want the United States to be a strong, safe power that we can actually do business with and is stable enough that we can manage and live beside. I don't think that's going to happen at this point in time. What I see is going to happen this summer is, given that Brent is it's approaching or it's hovering about $120 a barrel. That tells me that, and that's the future price, not the spot price. Spot price is a little bit higher. That tells me that the economy is suffering. The economy is dying. The Americans have no idea how to deal with this. Britain and Charles III came in and said, "Dude, what the heck are you guys doing?" In a very polite way, which is the way that he must do it because he's a diplomat. He's not a politician. So he's not the guy who goes in there and says, "You guys are fucking up and you need to sort your shit out." That's not his job to do. Our job is to figure out from a Canadian perspective how we manage this chaos. And it will be chaos, and it will not get much better this summer. I had a wonderful couple of days with family, and it made me realize that people who are not idiots like me, who actually think about this stuff 24/7, don't really functionally understand how bad things are actually getting at this point in time. And I without sounding like a doom and gloom, the sky's falling, little chicken sort of thing, I don't know how to explain to people that we are literally living through a period of fundamental change for an entire global economic system. Where the tectonic plates of the globe are shifting away from Canada and the United States as the gravitas of say Europe and Canada. And they're moving into different directions. China is becoming the hegemon of the world. They actually already are. The United States still has tremendous economic power, but it's on a decline. My concern, my worry about this is that when you have a situation like this with a declining power that still has a lot of hard power, even if it's soft power, as we're watching and witnessing, and you can give me more examples than I can cite about how that is happening around the world right now, how we deal with the panic that happens when the United States realizes that the race is run, the game is out, they're no longer the country that they thought they were, reality starts to catch up with them. How are they going to handle it, and how are we as a global community going to handle that sort of a realization? Anytime in my experience as a high school teacher, I've run into a situation where kids are suddenly confronted, for whatever reason, with the direct results of their actions. There comes a position or a point in time where they're looking at you and they're like, "Oh my God, I actually did this. I created this," and it is a staggering point, and it's hard. You've been there. I've been there. We've all been there. Here we're having a situation where the United States is now doing it from a societal level. This is going to be very, very difficult for them to process. And I am not crapping on the American people. I mean, half my family are American. These are good people. They're the same as everybody else on earth. They're dealing with the society. They're dealing with the system. They're dealing with what they're dealing with. So do not be angry at the American people for the way that they react to this. Just understand that they're in a position of crisis and chaos. And I think the next few months for the rest of the world outside the United States is going to get rather rocky. From a Canadian perspective, I'm fairly happy that the government is doing its best to ensure that we're doing the necessary tasks to extricate ourselves from an adverse relationship with the United States. We're doing the best we can to ensure that we're spreading the load around and we're building out with other countries. And I think this is absolutely in Canada's best interest. Frankly, we probably should be doing this since the 1970s, more than we have, but we're finally forced to do it. So we're getting off the pot, and we're actually doing the work. How this plays out, though, over the next few months is going to be very difficult. I'm hoping that the United States can find a way forward, but to be quite honest, and I guess I'm not really a happy guy with respect to my opinion about the United States political future, but if they get through this, they're going to have to do something akin to what France did a couple of times after certain disasters and debacles have happened to them. They need to, I think, personally, just me, ensure that they retain some of the basic parameters of the original constitutional and the original structure and the character of the nation. But they absolutely have to come up with a different way of doing business. The constitution that they have is a duct taped together Frankenstein monster of basically dudes decided they didn't want the boss over there to have complete ownership, so we want complete ownership. So they had a revolution. So the rich people in the United States, rich slave owners in the United States, wanted to ensure that they get the say in what happens in the United States. They built their constitution off of that foundation, regardless of the grandiose language. And I've done several courses in American constitutional history, and I absolutely understand. I respect the massive jurisprudential work that has been done there. They need to functionally, I think, at this point in time, because the system is so corrupt, the system is so rotten, it has been so far degraded, not by Project 2025, but also going back in time to, I mean, we can go back to friggin' Nixon and the Civil Rights Movement, and the Voting Rights Act has just been basically rescinded in functional terms. So what do we do now? They need to go back to square basic parameters and rebuild from scratch. They have to tear down the foundation and build back better. What's that going to look like? I don't know. That's not my job to do. That's their job to do because they're Americans and I'm a Canadian. All I see is that there's a very good potential that we might see an American Civil War. And if we have an American Civil War 2.0 in this year of 2026 or going into the future, there are nukes. So given that their last war was still the most functionally destructive war in their entire history, that their civil war still killed more people, more Americans, than all the other wars they have ever conducted up until today put together combined, we can expect rough waters. So let's hope that we can avoid that. But again, nobody really knows what's going to happen here. It's a difficult time. It's a struggling time. It's a terrifying time. And I find I get pissed off because their bullshit is absolutely affecting the lives of everybody else on Earth. Everyone on Earth is being harmed by what is happening in the United States. They don't even understand what they're doing to other people. They functionally don't have that appreciation. Iran, children dying and getting sublimated by TLAMs. Canada, and around the world, all these tariffs and these punishments. The damage and the death, the millions of deaths that are now happening because of the end of USAID abruptly, the shock, the just, fuck it, we're not going to do it anymore, so it's gone. Well, that has meaningful consequences everywhere. The war in the Gulf, the oil shock, which we are still just at the beginning of experiencing the ramifications of. Strait of Baba Mas. I mean, like these are issues. These are American issues struggling with America that are absolutely profoundly affecting the lives of everybody. Every citizen on Earth is now affected by this crisis. I guess it's a global crisis at this point. How do we handle this as a globe? How do we work together as an entire species around the world to help this fellow member of the global community, the United States, which is a vital and an important aspect of the entire society of the world? If anybody thinks that I am super critical of the United States and I hate the United States, I absolutely have vast respect for the United States. Half my family are from Michigan and Colorado. They came up here to Canada to follow the railroad back in the 1915s, 1920s. We have so many attachments. I mean, I spent a lot of my formative years down in Florida and Gatlinburg, Tennessee. These are not bad people. It's not a people issue. This is a systemic issue. And it's also, to extrapolate from that, likely a systemic issue that is going to affect every other country on Earth. Because Canada's not unique. Canada's not special. We are assholes too. We are just as racist as the United States. We have committed just as many genocides to the United States. We have, well, Doug Ford down in Toronto, who is doing dastardly things. We've got Danny Smith out west who's doing dastardly things. We got the frigging people who are shuffling money to FIFA doing dastardly things. So we've got our problems too. I'm not saying that we've got a clean conscience to come at this from. But as a global community, this is a time of change where we can maybe figure out how to work things through better. Perhaps what we're looking at is maybe, along with the rebuild of North Atlantic security, because NATO is obviously going through some very serious issues, perhaps we're looking at a different... See him? Yeah. Perhaps we're looking at a different UN, a new UN. Something that is not shackled by the five powers that controlled the world at the end of the last global war back 80, 90 years ago. Perhaps we need a new UN structure and a new system of global governance so that we can honestly, effectively, and meaningfully tackle the problems and needs that we all face as an entire species. The world's too big now. There are too many people in too many places for us to be divided by stupid self-declared constructs like borders and you're over there, we're over here, we get to do our shit, you get to do your shit. We're now living in a world where we have one atmosphere, we have one ocean, one world global ocean, got one global ecosystem. That stuff out there is what keeps us alive. We all have to work together now, and we all have to plan a path forward together if we're going to get through this crisis, this geopolitical bottleneck, if you want to call it that, in order to ensure that our species survives. Anyways, that's 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. I've gone on way too long, and I'm babbling way too much, and I'm going to go make tacos for Grandpa. So, anyways, you guys take care, but I thought I'd been quiet for a little while in the Borg bunker here because I've been dealing with my garden and some other stuff, but I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody and say thank you very much, and I appreciate your help. And any comments or questions or yeah, tell me I'm an asshole, please do so down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all the happy stuff. And from the Borg Bunker, we'll talk to you soon.